They called him the strongest man who ever lived. A man who could tear lions apart with his bare hands. A man chosen by God before he was even born. But this isn't just a story about strength. It's a story about weakness, the kind that doesn't live in muscles, but in the heart. This is the story of Samson, the man who had everything, power, purpose, and promise, and still lost it all because of love. A long time ago, before Israel had kings, there were judges, leaders chosen by God to guide and protect his people. During that time, Israel was suffering under the rule of their enemies, the Philistines. In a small town called Zorah, there lived a man named Manoah and his wife. They had no children. One day, an angel of the Lord appeared to the woman and said, "You will have a son, but he must never drink wine or cut his hair, because from birth he will be dedicated to God as a Nazirite. He will begin to rescue Israel from the Philistines." It was a miracle, and when the baby was born, they named him Samson. From a young age, it was clear, Samson was different. The Spirit of God gave him supernatural strength. He wasn't just strong, he was unstoppable. As Samson grew up, he began to see the world differently from his parents. He was bold, confident, and sometimes reckless. One day, he told his parents he wanted to marry a Philistine woman, someone from the enemy tribe. His parents tried to stop him, saying, "Aren't there women from our own people?" But Samson's mind was made up. "She's the one I want," he said. On his way to meet her, something happened that changed everything. A young lion attacked him, roaring, ready to kill. But Samson grabbed it with his bare hands and tore it apart like it was nothing. No sword, no weapon, just strength. He didn't tell anyone, not even his parents. Later, he passed by the lion's carcass again and found bees had made honey inside it. He took some, ate it, and gave some to his parents, but didn't tell them where it came from. That's how Samson's story often went, power mixed with mystery, strength mixed with secrets. At his wedding feast, Samson gave his guests a riddle based on that lion and the honey. He said, "Out of the eater came something to eat. Out of the strong came something sweet." If they solved it, he'd give them fine clothes. If not, they'd owe him instead. The Philistines couldn't solve it, so they pressured his new wife until she begged Samson for the answer. He told her, and she told them. When they answered the riddle, Samson knew he'd been betrayed. Furious, he went out, killed 30 Philistines, took their clothes, and paid his debt. But when he returned, his wife had been given to another man. Samson burned with anger. Literally, he caught 300 foxes, tied torches between their tails, and released them into the Philistine fields, burning their crops to ashes. It was chaos, and the Philistines wanted revenge. They came for him. An army of Philistines surrounded the place where Samson stayed. The men of Judah, his own people, tied him up and handed him over to the enemy, hoping that would stop the violence. But as the Philistines came shouting toward him, the Spirit of God filled Samson again. The ropes around his hands melted like burned cloth. He grabbed the jawbone of a donkey lying nearby and struck down 1,000 men. 1,000. One man, one jawbone, pure strength. Afterward, he was exhausted and thirsty. He cried out to God, saying, "You've given me this great victory, now must I die of thirst." And God opened a spring of water for him. Samson was unstoppable. But the more victories he won, the more pride and carelessness grew inside him. Then came Delilah. She lived in the valley of Sorek, and Samson fell deeply in love with her. The Philistine rulers saw this as their chance. They went to her and said, "Find out the secret of his strength, and we'll pay you a fortune." Delilah agreed. She began to ask Samson, gently at first, "Tell me, what makes you so strong? How could someone tie you up and make you weak?" Samson played along, giving her fake answers, saying if he was tied with fresh ropes or woven with hair strings, he'd lose his power. Each time, Delilah tried it, and each time he broke free like it was nothing. But she didn't stop. She pressed him day after day, until Samson was tired to death. Finally, he gave in. He said, "My hair has never been cut, because I'm dedicated to God from birth. If my head is shaved, my strength will leave me." That night, while he slept on her lap, Delilah called for a man to shave off his hair. Then she shouted, "Samson, the Philistines are here." He woke up, thinking he'd break free again, but this time, his strength was gone. They captured him. They gouged out his eyes, and they chained him in prison, grinding grain like an animal. The strongest man alive became a slave, blind, broken, forgotten. But Samson wasn't finished yet. As time passed, his hair began to grow back. One day, the Philistines held a massive celebration to honor their god, Dagon. Thousands of people filled the temple, laughing, drinking, mocking the man who once terrified them. They brought Samson out to entertain them. Blind and weak, he asked the servant leading him, "Place me where I can feel the pillars that support the temple, so I can lean on them." Then Samson prayed one last time, "Lord God, remember me. Please give me strength just once more, so that I may pay back these enemies for my eyes." With his hands on the two central pillars, Samson pushed with all his might. The pillars cracked, the temple began to shake, and with one final roar of strength, the whole building collapsed, killing more Philistines in his death than he ever did in his life. Samson's story is more than a tale of strength. It's a warning and a reminder. He had incredible power, but he lost focus on the purpose behind it. He was chosen, yet distracted, gifted, but undisciplined. And still, even after failure, God used him one last time. Because God's grace doesn't depend on how perfect we are, but how willing we are to turn back to Him. Samson's story teaches us that real strength isn't just in what we can lift or break, it's in knowing when to surrender. He was the strongest man who ever lived, but the truest strength he ever showed was in his final moment, when he remembered where his power really came from. Thanks for watching Story Voltage. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more powerful Bible stories told in a way that's easy to understand. See you in the next story.